Cheers, and welcome to Cooking with MoWino. Today is actually Palm Sunday, and we are staying at home. This is day 21 of the self-quarantine that we are undergoing. And because we're feeling a little nostalgic, one of the things we decided to cook today was one of my grandmother's noted dishes. There were certain things my grandmother made that nobody else made, and one of them was country fried steaks. So we are going to make country fried steaks, which is a very simple process. However, it's just got certain layers, as most good food does. And the final layer will be making the gravy, which we will enhance with wine. So today we are drinking a lovely wine from Livermore Valley, from Nottingham Cellars, where I am a club member, and this is their Supremacy. It is unbelievable. It's a 2016. Want to make sure I got it right. Yes, I was correct. Before I mistakenly called it a Cabernet, it's actually a blend of 5 Bordeaux grapes. So that's the other side of the kitchen. The beeper's going off because our rice is ready. Can't plan everything perfectly. Anyway, this is a lovely wine. It's one of their flagship wines, and I'm lucky to have three bottles. So we opened one today because it's Palm Sunday and day 21. So I've mentioned that there's several steps. One, I have salt and peppered cube steaks. So I am now going to dredge them in a egg and milk mixture. And then, because this is a southern dish, we are putting it into cornmeal, a very fine powdered cornmeal that I have added a little bit of garlic salt to, just to give more flavor to the steaks. Dusting them off, and we're going to put them in a very hot, hopefully, well, I hear a little sizzle, pan of avocado oil, which is a healthy, high-intensity heat oil, because we're going to get this pan very hot to make the steaks have a crispy edge to them. So I'm going to do this in spurts and do my steaks and sizzle on up. Cheers! Now here we have the steak, chicken fried steak. That's why we have battered it in cornmeal, and we are frying the cube steaks. They've all been put in at different times depending on after the flouring process. So they're all cooking at different stages. However, the reason I'm showing you this is every time you put in a new steak with the flour, obviously the grease is going to get thicker, but the temperature of the oil is going to lower because the steak is cold. So this changes the cooking process. So you really just basically have to study it and look at it and figure out when it's done. There's no science here, but it's roughly about 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, we have a nice crust on the steak, similar to fried chicken. Back to the layering of country fried steak. So I have here 4 beautiful country fried steaks, which is basically a soft cube steak that has a fried chicken type batter around it. And then it's put into a gravy. Now, some people in the north would call this Salisbury steak, but we call it country fried steak in the south. So I have my pan where I've taken off the excess oil. See? It's just the scrapings now of the steak, which is going to help create our gravy. So what I am going to do first is put in 1 pat of butter. And because I want some substance to my gravy, I'm going to saute mushrooms and onions into it. Now, my grandmother only put in onion ring slices, very thin, but I have quartered cut an onion, half moon shapes, so that they would semi reflect the same size and shape of my button top mushroom slices. I had an excess amount of mushrooms in the house today as we are in day 21 of our self-quarantine, and my mushrooms started going bad. So I'm making a lot of mushroom recipes so that we make sure that we don't waste food. So we have our butter going. And I am just going to put in a few mushroom tops and this quarter of an onion. It's also thinly sliced, but like I said, in half moon shapes, not like big rings like my grandmother. And I'm just going to let these softly saute until they're tender, and then we're going to thicken it up and make our gravy. So our onions and mushrooms have been sauteing in the pan and are now nice and soft. The onions are not translucent, but they're about to get there. But the mushrooms are perfect consistency and keeping their integrity. So I want to move on forward now with the making the gravy. I am going to put in 1 pat of butter into our pan, and I am going to sprinkle just a little bit of cornstarch, just about a little less than a tablespoon. I'm going to mix this up. And I have here some chicken broth. I'm going to add a 1/2 cup. So we want to get a basis of a liquid going for the gravy. And all that foam and stuff is happening because of the cornstarch, and we are starting to thickening it up immediately. But this is cooking with MoWino, so I'm going to add a 1/2 cup of our lovely Nottingham Cellars wine. So now we're going to get a nice color on the gravy, a little bit of maroon, if you will. And we're going to keep the flame up because we want it to keep boiling. Because the whole point here is to get a thickness to the sauce. Okay. It is boiling. So this is my slurry. I always make one of these. It's equal parts cornstarch and wine. So I am going to pour this in, and this is really what's going to thicken it up. Yeah, I got to put it in faster. And I'm going to add some more chicken broth, which is, by the way, low sodium chicken broth from that box. The rest of my slurry in. I'm going to add another cup, 1/2 cup chicken broth. Now normally, if I had thought ahead, I would probably be using a flat whisk on this. Yeah, now it's nice and thick. But the whole point here is we want to make sure that we cook the flour out. We do not want this gravy tasting like flour. So I'm going to give it a little taste with my tasting spoon. Okay, I don't taste flour, but it needs something. And I think it needs pepper. So I'm going to add some pepper. I'm going to lower the flame. And I am going to gently rest my chicken fried steaks on top of our onion and mushroom mixture. We don't want them to be smothered in them, but we want them definitely to sit in them because we want to get some more of that beefy taste from the steak, and we want to heat them through. So they've been sitting off to the side. Now there's not a lot of drippings on my plate, but we want to get every ounce of goodness. So I am going to scrape this. I would say maybe a whole teaspoon came out. Not much, but it's important. So I'm going to use a thinner spoon now because my steaks are in here. I'm going to continue to lower the flame. Okay. All right, so basically we're going to let this sit so that the steaks come back up to temperature. And then we are going to serve this over some old-fashioned white rice. And we have some green beans that are cooking in the back. We're having a good old Southern Granny menu on Palm Sunday. Cheers. Okay, we have a great simmering steak in brown wine gravy. Just going to lower the flame just a little bit. Maybe even a little more. Put the lid on and let it simmer for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to pour it over rice.